Good morning, Rabbotai. Welcome to Breakfast in the Class. Must be Friday. Breakfast in the Class today has been sponsored and dedicated by the Daniel S. Loeb Torah Center Silver Donors, Anna and Adam Amsalem, in honor of the IDF and for the safe return of our hostages. Also dedicated for Rabbi Shlomo Farhi and Haim Rafael Ben Frida for the continued health of Hannah Bat Sima Fega. The week of Breakfast in the Class dedicated in loving memory of Barry Setlu Nishmat Ovadia Ben Esther, sponsored by his son Jack Sit. Also in loving memory of Yosef Tzaddik, Yosef Ben Shimon, and sponsored by his family. The year of Breakfast in the Class dedicated in loving memory of Leilu Nishmat Ruth Orfali Bat Adela, Shalom, sponsored by her family. My friends, let's begin. I want to start by wishing Mabruk and Mazal Tov to my daughter Charna and my son-in-law Yoshua Cohen on the zechut of having and bringing a healthy baby girl into the world. Mazal Tov, grandchildren are very, very special. The kind of kids that you could sugar up and then hand back to their parents and leave. So Baruch Hashem, there's no such thing as an absent grandparent. Only a parent. So you're able to have all the good stuff without all the little bit of without the challenging and discipline. But all jokes aside, it's a very special feeling, a feeling of continuity. Someone asked me, why is it that when a person becomes a grandfather, there simply aren't words to be able to communicate what it feels like? And I explained, because the joy is that this is something that will outlive you. It's not just that you made something. Making something is beautiful, but to make something that makes something, that's eternal. That lives forever. There's something very special about that. So therefore, it's something which is bigger than you, outlives you. The physical expression that you would use to be able to try and communicate it is really impossible. So Toda La'el, thank you Hashem. I have no words. Thank you very much. Please bless me with more and more and more Be'ezat Hashem, inshallah. We also want to wish an unbelievable Mazal Tov and Mabruk to none other than Sammy and Michaela Sutton on the birth of a baby girl. Mazal Tov, Mazal Tov, Mazal Tov. I think the only reason why Hashem didn't give you a boy first, Sammy, is because He knows you would have put him on the Met team. So out of Hashem's kindness, He gave you a baby girl. Ishtabach Shemo, Sammy and Michaela, we love you guys. We are so thankful to Hashem for this beautiful miracle. Hashem should bless you, Be'ezat Hashem, with many, many more, to build a beautiful and a happy family for many, many generations to come. Okay, let's begin. So the pasuk says, Yayin v'shechar al tesht. In the aftermath of the story of Nadav ve'Avihu, the Torah tells us that Aharon, you're going to go serve in the temple. I want you to know, it's very important, Yayin v'shechar al tesht. Do not drink wine or beer or whiskey or gin or tequila or sake, whatever it is that is your chosen arak, whatever is your chosen poison, shlivovitz, okay? Date beer, exactly, for my Moed Katan boys. Don't have any of it if you're going to go to the temple and serve. Now, one of the lessons over here is obviously a person should not be drunk in doing the avodah. That's literally what we're saying. But I think that there's also another layer that we could peel up and look under, if you will, for something maybe a little bit different, something a little bit on the side issue. So I want to share a beautiful parable that was brought by the Chafetz Chaim. You know, the Chafetz Chaim was once speaking to his students, and they were talking about rich people, like they say, people who have deep pockets and short arms. Okay? They don't give according to what they're capable of giving. They were blessed by God with unimaginable success and wealth. And maybe they give, or maybe they don't give, but they don't give enough. Anyway, so people were talking with the Chafetz Chaim and how terrible it is. And he said, I want to give you an example. He says, you have a guy, unfortunately he's the town drunk. Now, it used to be, you lived in a little shtetl, or a little village. Everybody knew there was one guy. Baruch Hashem now is okay in New York City to not only have one guy, we have asara batlanim on every corner. And not only are they drunk, they're high. yelling conspiracy theories at you. It's beautiful, Baruch Hashem. Anyway, so there's a guy, he's the town drunk. And one day, he's walking down the street. He, so drunk, as he's walking, he just collapses. He's sitting there in the gutter of the street, in his own vomit, rolling around on the floor, you know, screaming, cursing, yelling, making a spectacle of himself. Anyway, all the people gathering around, they're laughing, they're taking pictures, they're throwing things at him, you know, they're kicking dirt on the guy, all right? Kicking their can all over the place, doing all different things. Although I don't know what that means. So, as this is happening, one guy walks up to the drunk guy, lying there on the floor, and he leans over and he says to him, you know, if I were you, he said, you know, even if I drank a whole bottle of whiskey, I would never be like this. I would never be drunk on the floor. I would never be, you know, rolling around. I would never throw up. I would never be the laughing stock. I would never be cursing. You know, you got to know how to handle your drink. That's what the guy says. Okay, Chafetz Chaim says that mashal is people who don't have money talking about people who have money and don't give. Like this guy, he has so much wealth. If I had how much money he has, no different to this fellow who's looking at the drunk guy on the floor saying, if I was drunk, I wouldn't behave like this. Well, that's the whole point of being drunk. When a person is drunk, they've lost control. Now, it might take more, less. You may be able to hold your liquor better, worse. But there comes a point at which your blood alcohol level is, you know, to whatever degree it takes, you lost control. You can't think clearly. You can't make good executive function decisions. A person's inhibitions, his risk, understanding of risk is minimized. All right? My friends, said the Chafetz Chaim, having a lot of money is like getting drunk. And at a certain point, a person loses touch with reality. They start to think to themselves in terms that only make sense to a drunk person. So said the Chafetz Chaim, you can't judge a person who has a lot of money and doesn't give, because you don't understand what it feels like to be that rich. That's what he said. Now, firstly, this idea that a person can become drunk with rich, drunk with power, drunk with control, all these different things. People around them they have all sorts of advice for them. They don't realize that the person you're talking to is incapable of doing what is so simple for you, because you're not drunk. People get drunk with pain. They get drunk with anger. Guy who's not angry tells the guy, listen, you know, you got to cool it. Has that ever worked? In the history of cool it, has it ever worked? Guy is very upset. Listen, I think you're taking this too seriously. Has anyone ever said, you're right, I should take it unseriously? Has anyone ever said that? Guy's miserable. Drunk with negativity. By the way, I don't know if you understand, and again, Baruch Hashem, Hashem should bless you to never understand. You know how intoxicating negativity is? Cynicism? For people that are caught in the swirl of negativity, of depression, you know how intoxicating it is? It's like a comfort blanket. Ever take a guy who's a negative person, try and talk about how things are positive? They're like grabbing their negativity back from, no, my situation is bad. It's bad. You know, but isn't this beautiful? But it's not. No. It becomes a security blanket. Something without which you don't have an identity. A person can be drunk with negativity. What the Chafetz Chaim was effectively communicating, first of all, what it says to me, is the idea that a person should have compassion for someone else and understand that they don't understand them. That's also a measure of understanding. The first thing is, you look at someone who's going through something and you're like already judging. The first level is, a person thinks, well, you could never understand what I'm going through. Possibly. But you know what I can understand? At least I could understand and really understand that I don't understand. That's already a level of compassion. That's already a level of understanding, of empathy, of sympathy, that a person, that most people don't get to. Most people fake nod their head and think, I know exactly what he's going through. I understand. He needs to man up. She needs to woman up, okay? She needs to shut up. He needs to shut up. Get on with it, right? See, that's what people are saying. But they put on a veneer, the first thing is to understand that when a person is stuck in something, it's not often something they can get themselves out of. If the guy's drunk, you wouldn't just say, you need to sober up now. You can't. Physically, you can't just decide to sober up. Person is a problem with drugs. Gotta get your life together. Let's go, right now. It takes time. Withdrawal. There's a whole thing. It's almost as if a person who's drunk on some level is in another place. Now, I just want to throw one thing out there. Once we're mentioning this idea of yain v'shechar al tesht, that we have to be very careful. To be very careful. A drink, alamak. 2, however, whatever, alamak. But understand that there is a slope here that many people fall down from just having 1 or 2 or kiddush or with the boys or not with the boys and then mazeh. I think sometimes a mazeh gets so crazy that in Shamayim Hashem says, mazeh. What is this? This is not something I encourage. This is not something I want. And again, it doesn't start that way. Friday afternoon in the summer, you're out with the guys, this, that, lahmajin, kibbeh, a drink or 2, hey, drink it, Guy comes home Friday dinner, smashed, falls asleep 2 seconds at the table. Whole family's sitting around, and he's drunk at it. Now you can't have a conversation with him. Too late. But number one, important to understand how that is. And when a person gets to a point where it left the occasional or the social, and it's every day, and it's every night, understand that a person needs to get help to get out of that. Because when you go to that place, unfortunately, a lot of times you can't get out. We have to be cognizant, we have to be brave, we have to be willing to call it out in people, not publicly, to them, with love, with care, with concern. But at that point, it's really not, it's beyond their capability. So, when the Pasuk says, Yain v'shechar al tesh, I don't want you going into the Beit HaMikdash drunk. I saw here 2 lessons, and these are the 2 lessons I really want to talk with you about. The first lesson is, you can't go to Kiddusha when you're drunk. Now, what does that mean? A holy place, a person can't attend to it when they're drunk. I told you before, from the Chafetz Chaim, that there's a lot of different things that can make a person drunk. Social status. The phrase in English is drunk with power. The Pasuk over here is communicating that you know what the problem is? Power can be used very, very effectively and constructively. Charisma, dynamism can be used unbelievable, it can be used amazing. You could use your charisma as a rabbi to raise people up, or you could start a cult. You could use it to take from anyone and everyone around you. You could use it for control. All of these things that God gave us, used correctly, they do amazing things. But when you're not using it, you know what happens? It starts using you. And you're not in control of the kavod, because kavod is not always bad. Let's say, as an example, a community has kavod for their rabbi. What's the net result of that kavod? That they improve. Because when the rabbi talks and teaches them and they treat it with respect, they listen, they grow, they understand. If they don't respect them, they don't listen, right? But what happens if the kavod goes to the rabbi's head too much? And he starts using it? It can be a very difficult thing, it can be a dangerous thing. So the first thing is the pasuk is telling you, yain v'shecha, I don't care what it is. Right? I don't care what it is that gets you drunk. It has no place in holiness. My friends, let me explain what this means in the broadest possible terms. There was once a man who came to see a fellow in Israel, I think it was in Israel actually, and he told him, I know that you met the great Rabbi Rav Chaim Soloveitchik, great big rabbi, the father of the middle one of the chain of the Brisker dynasty. You had the Bet Levi, you had the Rav Chaim, and you had the Brisker Rav. So he asked him, he says, you met him in person. What was he like? Was he funny? Was he like a happy guy? Did he talk a lot? Was he quiet? Was he reserved? He made such an impact. What was he like? Tell me about him. And the response is classic. He says, Rav Chaim was a person who lived his life by the Torah. He wasn't a sad person, a happy person, a talkative person, a not talkative person, an optimistic person, a negative person. He was a Torah person. So in Adar, Marbim b'simcha, he was happy. In Av, Matim b'simcha, he was sad. When it came to Lashon Hara matters, you can get a word out of him. When it comes to issues of Torah, the guy wouldn't stop talking. He didn't have a personality. His personality was Torah. Whatever he was supposed to do, that's what he was. You see people coming in sometimes to a shiva house, and they're jokey guys. 3 minutes later, everyone's laughing. Good thing, bad thing? Bad thing. To be a person that makes people smile, laugh, amazing. But that's not a bad avel. Our Chachamim tell us that the neshama of the person that passed away is there in the room listening to what people are saying about it. Would you imagine he just departed this world? Everyone's laughing? How does that cause the neshama to feel? What kind of tsar does that bring? When I go to Shiva, a lot of times, people are talking the whole time at the Shiva about how the person died, how they got tickets on the plane. The whole conversation revolves around how they buried the person. Not so important. What should the conversation be about? It should be about the niftar, the nifteret. What they did, what they accomplished, what was special about them, things that they said, things that they went through, that they overcame, the lessons you're learning. I want you to imagine, an article comes out in the newspaper, the Edmund J. Safra Times, says that Rabbi Shlomo Farhi is a rabbi of the synagogue and a nice guy, but if we're honest, I think the guy, he could give some better speeches. I think maybe the guy, he could be a little nicer. Maybe he could make the people feel more comfortable. How do you feel if you read a piece like this about yourself? Now, how about if you read a piece in the newspaper, it says, Rabbi was a nice guy. End of the article. What do you think? How do you feel? What, that's all they had to say? The neshama wants to hear what people have to say. About what? Yeah? The reason why I'm taking you down this path is because this guy who comes in, he's a joker. He's taking his midah and he's just being that thing across all plains and plateaus, even when it's not so appropriate. I remember once I was at a wedding, and on the chuppah, and this guy shouts out from the crowd. The rabbi was giving a speech, whatever, and the guy shouts out, Joe, everyone's laughing. Every head in the wedding that was facing towards Hatan and Kala, which is how it should be, all of a sudden is opposite. You should not be drawing attention away from the Hatan and Kala. But you have some people like, this is my setting. This is who I am. This is who I am everywhere. Yain v'shechar, you want to have a drink, it has its place. But you can't mix it with Kiddusha. You have power, you're drunk with power. Okay, use it in the right place, in the right time. There's got to be a shut-off switch. You know, show me, the famous line goes, show me a person who doesn't get angry about anything, and I'll show you a person who doesn't care about anything. And you care about somebody. If a teacher doesn't encourage your child, is making your child feel terrible about themselves, you get angry. Kid means something to you. Now I'm not saying you lose your temper, go Majnun, but there's got to be a shut-off switch. So the pasuk says, "Yain v'shechar al tesht." Nadav Avihu. There was a celebration for the inauguration of the temple. You drank. Look at where we are now. They went inside drunk. They got, unfortunately, punished for it, and now here we are at the shiva of Nadav and Avihu because of Yain v'shechar and the inability to control something. My friends, it's not only about addictions. It's about anything in your life. Everything about your life needs to be something that you bring under your control, your power, your money. Let me just share one thing. Ready for this? When I was dating a couple years ago, so a suggestion came to my parents, maybe you should go out with this girl. Anyway, my sister interjects. This is what sisters were made for. My sister says, don't go out with that girl. By the way, what does every boy want to do after that? Just to show, right, you know? I said, why not? My sister said, because this girl gets a new dress every wedding. I mean, I don't mean her own wedding, that would be obvious. I mean, every wedding she goes to, she attends, she gets a new dress. What do you want a high maintenance girl like that for? So my sister tells me. So I said, I don't care if she gets a new dress every wedding. I only care if she needs a new dress every wedding. Her parents are mega minted and wealthy, let's say. They want to buy a new dress, fadda. Who cares? Right? Some people buy a yacht, some people buy planes, some people buy their children nice clothes. No problem, mafiashi. Right? But does she need it? If she gets it, fine. If she needs it and then she marries a rabbi, that's not happening anymore. Right? My friends, when we use the word, I need, we are admitting that we have lost control over a desire. I need, I want, is fine. I want the nicest meal. I want the nicest suit. I want the nicest watch. I want a lot of things, no problem. But a need is something that controls you. I need to be respected. No, you need therapy. Because that need is now, it's overtaken who you are. That's the idea here. Yain v'shechar al tesht. Let me share with you this. There was a rabbi, his name was Rabbi David Michortkov. Anyway, a great Hasidic Rebbe. Gets a letter that there's a certain town nearby, they need to build a mikveh, they don't have a mikveh. He turns to his son, he says, listen, you need to go to this village, they don't have a mikveh. Mu'ayb, the first thing you got to build in a Jewish town, before you do anything, mikveh comes first, even before shul. Okay? So the son is like, Father says, what's the problem? Son says, listen, the town you're sending me to, the people there have no money. We're going to go and try and do a fundraiser to build a mikveh. We're going to make 20, we're not going to make any money. They don't have the money to support it. So I'm going to go there to do this important job, but I'm going to make nothing. First of all, I'm going to be a laughing stock. Second of all, it's not even going to help. Rabbi says, come sit here. Let me tell you an unbelievable story. There was a certain man who lived in the time of Rav Moshe Isserles of the Ramah. Wow. Yachid eledagul merevava yeva echele gavera rabba sheret nafshi aheva le'ava urovatzila.
סייעתא דשמיא תמשיך לדעות אתכם כל הקהל.
אמן, אמן, אולי
הרב יש לי יד הרב. הרב יסיים, אני יש לי יד הרב.
אוקיי. Mechila. What a zechut, what an honor to have with us the Chief Rabbi, Rabbi Lau. It's very, very special. A zechut to be able to have such an honor here. I feel katonti mikol hasadim, mikol ha'emet. So the rabbi said I asked him to share some words with us, and he said I should finish. He wants to wait till I finish what I was saying. So I'll finish very, very quickly. So the father says, listen, I want to tell you a story during the time of the Ramah, Rav Moshe Isserles. I mentioned that my children are direct descendants of the Ramah. So this granddaughter that was just born, this is her great grandpa. Okay, so the Ramah had at his time in the city of Krakow. There was a guy. His name was Moshe, and they called him Moshe Shabbosnik. Had a few different names for him. The guy used to carry things around. He was like the original piece of cake mover, I don't know if he had a pink truck, but he moved things around. He's a penniless guy running around. Why'd they call him Shabbosnik? Because the guy, he barely made $1, but he would collect money throughout the week, put it aside. Every time he would put aside a half a penny, asking people for tzedakah. He was a poor man, and he had a minhag. What was it? Some people have a beautiful minhag, to put money in tzedakah before they light Shabbat candles. Some people have a beautiful minhag, to walk backwards out of the Beit Knesset. They say all the Pesukim that are written in the Sidur. A lot of beautiful minhag. What was this guy's minhag? Every Friday before Shabbat would come in, he would go to the bar, order himself a double. That was how he went into Shabbat. That is, he collected all week. The guy was a bit of a drunkard, okay? That was his thing. But this was his minhag. Minhag Yisrael Kadosh. That's what he did. What are you going to do? Anyway, one week, he's walking down the street with the 2 pennies he's got in his pocket for this drink, and he hears a woman murmuring as he walks by. Here I am. I don't even have money for Shabbat candles, never mind food, and Moshe's off to have his Erev Shabbat drink in the bar. He hears it. He hears the call of the bar. He hears the G. He's fighting with himself. He gives her the money. Okay? A few hours after he gives her the money, he goes to the mikveh, right? Erev Shabbat. He dips in the mikveh. The minute he dips in the mikveh, he comes out, he goes home. The guy moots, passes away. He comes to the Ramah, I guess in a dream, and he tells the Ramah, listen, there's a big complaint against you in the Shamayim. What's the complaint? Go away, you're drunk. He tells him in his dream, go away. He says, no, I'm not here anymore. I'm in the next world. I just came back to tell you that there's a ta'ana against you. What's the ta'ana? He says, whenever you raise money, you only raise money from the rich people. You never raise money from the poor people, because they don't have money to give. Yeah, but he says, but still, they should be included. If they could give a penny, a nickel, a quarter, something. Give them the zechut of giving tzedakah. He says, Moshe, go away, you're drunk. Anyway, he wakes up, he goes to the shul, he asks the people over there, he says, where's Moshe? They tell him, he's in the side room over here. He died right before Shabbat, we didn't have time to bury him. So we laid him over here. Now anyone who's been to Krakow will know, the Ramah's shul is actually backed up by the cemetery of Krakow. So the back window of the Ramah's shul actually looks at the Ramah's kever. Okay? So the baby, this guy is lying there in state, yani, okay? L'hafdil elef halfei havdalot, to the Pope, okay? All right? And what's it called? And he's just there, okay? End of the day, the guy's dead. He came to him in a dream. He goes back. Anyway, the dream continues. And what happens? And he says, listen, I got to Shamayim, and they explained to me the power of what I had done, that I had given what I did not have to give. I was a poor man who gave away his last pennies to tzedakah. And they took me to the highest place in Gan Eden. I'm not going to tell you the rest of the story because I want to get to hear some words from the rabbi. But the end of the story is he convinced Rav Moshe Isserles, he convinced the Ramah to go and to take donations from poor people. The rabbi finishes the story and he tells his son, you understand now why I'm sending you to go collect money for the mikveh, even though the people don't have any money? The zechut of the people who give when they don't have. We'll figure out how to get the rest of it. But the zechut of people who give from what they don't have to give is unimaginable. My friends, these are the words of a drunkard. Hashem took him before he could mess up what he did so beautifully. But you and I all have areas in which we are poor. So you know what? It's one thing to give when you have money. Beautiful. Quite another to give when you don't have money. It's one thing to give from your midot that you are powerful in. It is quite another to be able to give from midot where you're penniless. You have zero patience and you give patience. That's the gift of an ani. That's HaKadosh Baruch Hu giving something super special. HaKadosh receiving something super special. Yain v'shechar al tesh, says the pasuk. You're drunk on something and you're coming to do something holy. I want you to come here and give that thing up. The thing that's hard for you, the thing that's difficult. One act from a midah that you don't have is worth 1,000 acts from a midah that you do. Hashem should bless us always to give from our rich pocket and from our poor pocket, and to cause and to recognize when these things have control over us and to work to diminish that control. Rabotai, we have the tremendous zechut to hear some words from the great rabbi, from an illustrious line, a rabbi who's chief rabbi, whose father was a chief rabbi. It's a very, very special thing, a zechut. And I was zoche to be in Poland to visit the city where it was Pietrków, right? To be able to go to see the bullet holes in the wall. So it's a personal zechut to be able to have the rabbi here with us. Please, Rabbi. And Mechila as well for speaking in your presence.
On behalf of the rabbi, I ask him to continue because you are in the middle of his shiur. Because of that, I thought it is my pleasure to sit here and to hear you, Rabbi, to the rabbi that spoke to you and explain how important something special about the poor man that Kodesh Baruch Hu asked him to sacrifice something. He couldn't have money. He couldn't give money because he have only one, in Poland is kopika. It's not a cent, one kopika, but he gave one kopika for him. He gave all his money that he has. So it means like a minche in Beis HaMikdash. Minche in Beis HaMikdash, who is the man who bring mincha? Ani. Someone that he don't have money for to buy a cow or a sheep or something the same. But he has soul. He gave something from himself, and Kodesh Baruch Hu said in Torah, "Benefesh ki takriv." Kodesh Baruch Hu told him, "I like it because you bring me your soul, your life." And because of that, it's so important. I continue the words of Rabbi. And I want to add one point. We need to remember this parasha. The children of Aaron wanted to be close to Hashem. They took fire and they entered to the base to Mishkan, but not exactly according to Ratzon Hashem. And to be close to Hashem, we need to remember which way we can do that, how we can feel ourselves close to Hashem. Only one way, to keep His mitzvot, not to add, not to take to lose something, but to do all the mitzvot according to Hashem. This is a way for us to be close to Hashem. And because of that, if you are a rich man, you can bring more. If you are a poor man, you can give less, not so much money, but you can give your soul. And Kodesh Baruch Hu looks at people and asks him, everyone, what I like you. I want to be with you, to be close to you. Take my mitzvot. and do according of them. And I want to add one point. I want to share with you a little story. The rabbi spoke about the Ramah, and I was there also in the Shul of Ramah, cemetery of the Gdolei Olam around here. One of the Gdolei Olam there was Rabbi Natan Neta Shapira. He wrote 242 explanation to the word of Va'etchanan, and his book named Megale Amukot. He found the deep explanation of our Torah, Megale Amukot, and on his grave you can see the words that they wrote. He had a chavose. He had a chavose, not me, not the rabbi of this city in this time. He had a chavruta named Eliyahu Navi. On his grave, you can see Lamad Torah im Eliyahu. And near him, you can find a grave without name. We don't know exactly the name, but we know that Yagid Alav Re'o. This is a word on the grave of the Honorable Tzeva. Yagid Alav Re'o. What it means, Yagid Alav Re'o? That his friend teach about him. His friend, his neighbor, Magale Amukot, is teaching us who is the man who is the man who buried there. So we don't know his name. We don't know, but we know the story. And I make it short. The story is that someone died in Krakow, and no one knows who is the man. The people thought maybe he's a simple Jew, and they wanted to bury him in the end of the cemetery. But it was darkness. They didn't know exactly in the middle of the night where they put him, and they put him in the place that they found. And in the morning, they understood that they put him near Megale Amukot, near of him. And all the Chevra Kadisha, all the people were shocked. Maybe we did something, we put neighbor to Megale Amukot, someone not in his level. It's not good. It's terrible. What can we do? And the rabbi said all the communities is the first day, and in the end of the first day, the rabbi had a dream that Kodesh Baruch Hu told him, this simple Jew is not a simple, he is something amazing, and because of that, you can put in, this is the right place for him, the right place, because we don't know in the heaven who is important and who is not, who is the righteous and who is not exactly. So we need to remember that everyone needs to do what Hashem asks from us, and Kodesh Baruch Hu will help us, and Kodesh Baruch Hu knows the truth, that if you do all the things that you can do, if you give your soul, if you do all the things that you can be to be close to Hashem, Kodesh Baruch Hu like it and hug you and tell you that Sofa Kavod Lavo, all the people will know about you because the Kodesh Baruch Hu appreciate people who did what He commanded them. So we need to remember, and after the small tzedakah that Rabbi said, after the small tzedakah, I want to add that we don't know exactly what is important, but Hashem knows, and Hashem in the right place, Hashem showed to all the people around us what is the truth.
חזק וברוך. רבי חנניה בן הקשה אומר, רצה הקדוש ברוך הוא זכות ישראל לפי כך יבד עליהם תורה ומצוות שנאמר, אדוני חפץ למען צדקו, יגדיר תורה ויאדיר קדיש.